think we know the sun is supposed to be behind you. Okay.
Okay.
What else is it, like, even just not even caring what camera we're using, but how to make sure like we're capturing pictures, and a lot of what we do is not staged. And maybe it needs to be staged to get the better images. And if it does, that's okay. Like, we're okay doing that now and then too, you know, kind of knowing like, okay, like sometimes if the location is worth it, let's really stage something, you know, like let's make it work. And then other times we'll just do kind of in motion stuff. But a lot of what we do is we're not big on like just landscape. It's always like the whole thing we try to get across to people is the whole family travel. We're not like a fake Instagram family. Like we're really doing this, and this is really the reality of what it is. So like we like, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like getting the 4 kids in a shot doesn't always work because it's just too many people. But maybe not. Maybe it's just how I'm positioning it. Where normally if I try to get like just 1 or 2 in a shot, it's like maybe it works better. So I don't know if that's giving you enough direction on what we're looking for, but it's kind of like. Okay, I'll stop talking now.
No, you're fine. So, and I'll probably have to like rehash some of it, but remember when I shot you guys, kind of how like I moved around really fast. The number one thing that you have to do with 4 kids and a husband is or a wife, whoever's shooting, is you just have to prepare yourself for the shot. Like you have to have everything ready before that moment happens, because the kids will look. They'll look for about 1 or 2 seconds, and then they're all off. And then one person, and then another person will do it, and it's kind of like chaotic after that. So you really only have like 2 seconds to get that shot. That said, you just really have to know your camera and understand the settings that you want to be in at the time. So as far as the sun coming in behind you, that's totally cool. Like that works a lot. And if you're going to use like an auto mode, I want you to know that I am all for auto. It's all like you don't have to be a manual user to be like really good at photography. In fact, I was shooting a prom yesterday or 2 days ago, and I had an aperture priority the whole entire time.
Oh, okay. And that would be good, I think, for us to know, like, are there a few of those settings that, like, can kind of be your go-to? Like, you don't need to, you know, have to get it all lined up perfectly. You can just go to this setting and know that you can get most of what you need in there. So
totally. So let me ask you, do you guys shoot in RAW?
We do not. No.
Do you know what RAW is?
I don't.
I like, do you know what that is? Just answer me.
That's okay. I looked up your camera, and by the way, you guys have a really good camera that does great in low light and everything else. It's very highly recommended. So, and it does shoot RAW and JPEG. And so you probably shoot JPEG most of the time.
We do, yes.
And do you want to spend a whole lot of time editing and stuff?
Well, what does it mean? So, like, if it's in RAW, so that's just the file format then, like that the pictures are stored in?
Yeah, so RAW.
Okay, so then, like, if we brought it...
It looks at the scene, and it collects a whole bunch of data, and then it saves that data.
Okay.
And then you say, well, I want this part of the image to be brighter, so it just lets you adjust everything, like, however you want. It's amazing, really.
So the editing part is... You benefit on the editing side if you're in RAW format?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And you can't necessarily do that, obviously, in JPEG. Then it's already capturing it, so you can't, like, go back and... I mean, you can change it, but not as much as you can in the RAW.
Exactly, yeah. JPEG just is more of a narrow line of what you can do in editing, and RAW is very wide on what you can do. Yeah. I accidentally shot a whole entire wedding on JPEG, and it turned out okay. But it's kind of scary. It was a good thing I knew what I was doing because I had to get my exposures right. But if you, like in your case, shooting the kids, if you want to shoot something really fast and you don't really want to prepare for it and kind of just take a chance, which is what's great about digital, I would highly recommend shooting in RAW, and then you can fix it later. Now, that said, you said you don't like Lightroom, right?
Well, no, not that I don't like it. Just when I tried to use it, I was like overwhelmed. It was kind of like, I just want to push this magic button and it looks great. Like, you know, and like, I know that's not really the reality, but it was also like, I just didn't really know, like,
Yeah, it's a tool you got to learn, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. And I didn't take time to try to learn. I kind of just
Yeah.
went in and started pushing buttons to see what I could do. And I was happy with some of the stuff. Then I couldn't figure out how to get the picture downloaded. And like, I think it was user error again.
Well, it's actually doing the importing of images in Lightroom is kind of weird. Like I've always thought it should be better. But once you're in there, you have to edit one image exactly how you like it, and then you can save that. And let me just tell you right now that I don't have my computer that I normally have. So I don't have Lightroom on here, and I can't show you, but we can reschedule something else just to kind of like show you some Lightroom tricks, okay? And I'll just, whenever you got time, I'll make that happen for you. And
okay, yeah, because it could be just something even quick, like you're saying, that, you know, 5-10 minutes, like here's the basic things you need to do. And then my question about Lightroom is, I think I tried to get the cloud version, if that's what it's called, the cheaper one, versus getting the full-on suite or whatever. Can you do what we would need to do within just that cloud version, or is it well worth it? Okay, so I should be able to do it within that.
Yeah, in fact, while my computer is at Apple, I've been using Rhonda's computer, and she has a 8-year-old version of Lightroom that I've been using for the last 3 or 4 days, and it works totally fine. Yeah, once you get into the cloud stuff, it's just they want you to update all the time, but it's all the same controls. There's just some things like if you want to do really cool panoramas, there's different versions of it and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and like you can tell from us, we don't need to do all that. We're not going to be selling the amazing pictures like you're selling.
Yeah.
That's not our goal at this point. So, okay. But yeah, so no, for Lightroom, I think it would be great. And I don't know if you even have like a cheat sheet on it or something like that. If it's, you know, versus you having to take time to meet with us again, if it's something like that, you know, or even if you want to just record yourself doing it so you can do it on your own time and like send it to us, like we'd be fine with that too. I may have some questions I might send you, but just more trying to make it, you know, easier for you too, because I think that's what I needed is I needed someone just to come on and say, you know, nothing. Here's how you import a picture, do what you need to do with it, and export it, and you're done. Like, that's the process that I needed to understand. And then from there, I could, you know, expand my knowledge as I play with it. But at least I could do something with it versus it just, this image is like stuck there. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people just like you who just struggle with the very basic part of it, like getting it started. Because once you get it started, like there's so much that you can do inside, and it's just like me and Facebook ads. Like I cannot get on a Facebook. I'm like, ugh, my brain freezes. But I'm sure there's a point where you get to like, okay, this is a little easier. So yeah. So that's not a problem. And RAW will definitely help you to capture images a lot easier. You know, if you don't want to spend a lot of time editing, I would say, you know, learn how to shoot in JPEG. And just learn how to shoot right, like proper exposure and all that stuff.
Okay. Well, so I think we should try to do the RAW format and just kind of see what it gives us.
Because if you do the RAW, and then I'm assuming you take the RAW, can you post the RAW as is, like on social media, or you have to do something with it?
So what your camera is capable of doing is, and Craig, I'm sorry, I keep talking over you. There's a little delay in it.
No worries.
But you can shoot RAW and JPEG at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we should do, because I feel like our best intention would be to do it in RAW and edit and use it. But the reality is there'll be times when that won't happen. So I think it would be good. And and honestly, like on the call too today, like I did want to talk about what we do on the camera and like the formatting and stuff like that, but also like this, we use all the time.
Yeah.
So you know more about, like, I don't think there's many settings you can change on here unless we need to get a lens for it or something. But the reality of it is that this is just what's always with us. Totally. So like that capturing a lot of stuff. So like that idea too, that like, okay, like if we're just, so for that sense, this being JPEG or whatever, I guess those pictures, like we do have to still stay in that space, because I know we'll have images coming off of the phone that we'll be using.
Let me jump into the iPhone real quick, just to give you like the one little tip that changed everything for me, honestly, is when you are, go ahead and open your phone, and I'm going to show you my phone at the same time here. Let's see if I could do this. Okay. So, okay, see me on there?
Yep.
Okay. Do you know how to change exposure, like make it brighter and darker and all that stuff and make it locked?
No.
Okay, so a lot of times, so I have this whiteboard behind me. A lot of times you'd click right here and see how it makes it a little darker?
Yeah.
And then you would refocus and then it would go back, and that kind of sucks. So what you do instead is, see my face? You hold on my face, and then it does that little lock there. And then you can brighten it up, or you can make it darker.
There you go.
And it holds it, and then you can take the picture. And what's really, really cool about that is, like, if you have an amazing sunset, and then the phone's like, well, I want to expose for your kids because your kids are so cute. You know, like, I mean, you don't know what the phone's thinking. But you can override that. And that one little tip right there, like, changed everything for me with the iPhone.
Yeah. No, well, that's the people always talk about how great this phone is for pictures, and I'm like, well, what is it? Okay, but that right there, Okay.
It can be, as long as you know how to control it. That's the main thing. And if you wanted full manual control on it, the app that I use, but I don't use it that much anymore, is Camera Plus.
Camera Plus.
Yeah, it looks like that little guy right there.
Okay. Okay. All right, I wrote it down.
So, and that one gives you full control, but I mean, once you know that little trick on your iPhone, pretty much everything's pretty easy after that.
Cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think if we can kind of go that route for a minute too, just about kind of, and maybe there isn't anything to it, and maybe all it is just continuing to take pictures and paying attention. But like, if we're setting up a shot, like, is there something that we should really, like, that the person should be in this first third of it? I know kind of the thirds a little bit, like, but the person should be there. If you're doing 4 people, you want them to take up the whole screen because it's just going to look better than if you put them in a corner. Like, you know, some of those just basic things about just capturing the picture.
So, like, one of the things you want to do is you want to have basic composition. Just be aware of your basic composition. So all that means is make sure you get all the feet in and all the head in. One of the examples that I give to people is just like on this thing. What a lot of people do is, let me put it up back like this. So a lot of people will take a picture just like this because your focus point is in the middle, and most people don't know how to change it in their camera. So they just focus like this, and my head's right in the middle, and it'll always stay there because they don't move it around or anything. But what you do is you focus, then you tilt down and get rid of that headroom. Or you tilt up. It depends. Like, what I say is focus on your subject, and then be aware of the context of what you're shooting. So if you're shooting the kids and they're looking at a huge mountain, what you don't want to do is you don't want to cut off the tip of the mountain. You want to show it in all of its majesty. So you focus on them by holding down your iPhone and doing that lock. And then all you have to do is reposition it. So you're going like this, and then you're going up a little bit. Or down or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's just psychologically, when people look at a photo, they don't really know why or what's missing. But a lot of times the composition is just off. There's a lot of photos I critique where the person is right here. Or let me do it on this side. This makes more sense. So see how I'm like heavy on this side. I got a frame behind me. My head's right here. And then I have this empty space. And you want something to fill this space over here. But it makes more sense to position me over here because now I have a picture. But the thing that's wrong with this now is that, okay, let me do it this way. So what's wrong with this is that you're kind of cutting off the bottom of this picture here.
Yeah.
But if you do this, well, now you're cutting off my head. So what you really have to do is you have to back up and just kind of include them both in there.
Yeah, figure out how to do the spacing. No, and I think you're exactly right, is that I look at pictures, I'm like, oh, that looks amazing. Why can't I do that? And it's just what you said. It's those exact reasons that I feel like I can't, is because if I get a good picture, it's luck.
You totally can do it. It's just like if you just pay attention to composition, and if there's one thing that you took from this one-on-one is pay attention to composition all the time, because composition is by far the hardest thing to teach people. But you'll notice that even as I'm doing this, my hands are composed right and everything. Like I'm fully aware of how I'm composed in the image.
Yeah, you have yourself right in the video too on the screen, like all that. So we're like,
it's not like when I talk to my dad on the phone and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I do one-on-one with people, and like it's always like, "Hey," and their face is always all dark and everything. It's just,
where are you?
There you go.
You guys are composed well.
Yeah, we did okay. We do this enough times that we're learning. I wanted to show you a picture that I took that actually did really well on Instagram, but this is the full picture. But I think I know what you're going to tell me, but if you can just look at it real quick and then kind of give me some feedback, I think that would be great. Let me see if you can. All right, can you see it good enough?
Cool. Yeah, that's really nice. So obviously, I'm going to tell you that the top of the building is cut off.
Yep.
Yeah, but you have two options with this picture. You can either zoom out a little bit or tilt up and get him and the building in there, or you could just zoom in on him and put all the focus on surfing.
Okay.
But you being travelers, it seems to me that you would want to show your surroundings more than anything. Which an iPhone is really good for, because it has a wide lens and it kind of shows everything. All it takes from you guys is just moving back and forth. I call it a human zoom is what I call it.
Okay. Yeah.
So physically walk it in there. Steps,
yeah, or even sometimes I've read that sometimes like bending down is good, like getting on your knees almost, or like at a different levels to kind of make that. But then, so like when we're taking pictures of the kids specifically, and I understand it's not this cut and dry, but the way I think I need it cut and dry when I start, or else I'll just. So to think like in every picture we do, we should have like their feet to their head in the picture. Unless obviously if we're doing a close up, then there's some given, whatever. But for the most part, if I'm taking pictures where we're trying to do that, it makes sense to get their whole body in the picture, not to cut them off at the waist. Normally wouldn't make sense.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Let me tell you what not to have in your picture, which is you don't want a little bit of a shoe, or like you almost have the feet in there, but they're not in there, or you almost have the head, but they're not, or I'm going to show you something over here, but like my finger's like this,
Okay.
You could, instead of this, you could zoom in and get me like this, or you could zoom out and get my whole hand in there, or without my hand.
Okay. So not in the middle. Yeah, not in the middle. You want to commit to either the full body or the zoom in where you're kind of. I'm trying to get. There was a picture that Craig took yesterday or a couple days ago that I thought might be a good one too to kind of get.
Because Bryanna, what I don't want you to do when you leave here is I don't want you to take every single picture with heads and feet and all that stuff. Because if you just get waist up and stuff, that's really cool too.
Right.
If it's the right setting, which is then I think more if I know to do that, because then I can get the mountain in the background. It maybe makes sense to do waist up versus, play around, like you said, with the positioning. But here was a picture that Craig took.
Okay, cool.
Got their bodies in, but then this one he took where then he made the mistake like you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a very good example. And so the one before that, he was barely cutting off the picture just a little bit. And the one you just showed me, they're barely cutting off the feet. Yeah. And what I call that is breathing room. Just allow the subjects in your picture to have a little breathing room around it. That's a really good example, because the tilting down, tilting up didn't work. What you had to do in that instance is you literally had to take a step back.
Yeah, and do that too. You can see here what the difference would have been to have it. Because it was a cool picture from the angle, but then, something wasn't quite there. And it's like in this one, basically you're saying like get the whole picture in the frame, and then there wouldn't be much else you would say to do differently.
Yeah, and a lot of people are not going to make a big deal out of the whole entire frame, but I will tell you that you will think to yourself, like, this picture is so much more pleasing if you have everything in there.
Yeah.
Cropped.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what we want to learn and know is just how to take it. And then granted on the camera in a different setting, this would be even better, but if we're just using the iPhone, we can at least make it kind of stand out, in
An
what it
iPhone
is.
is going to be where you learn your composition more than anything. You can learn it with your camera, but once you learn it with iPhone first, that's going to make your using your camera so much easier because, I love training people with the iPhone on composition because I can show them exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, that's exactly like what it is too. And I'm trying to see if there was a picture that I could find that it helps me to kind of use actual pictures because then like I can think like, oh yeah, when I took that, like that's what I did.
And you have all the right stuff in your pictures. I had to ask you, when you took the surfing shot, were you surfing also, or were you in a boat, or how'd that happen?
I was just standing in the water. It was like,
super
it was like less than a foot deep of water.
That was super cool.
Yeah, that one, and the sun was right. It was the right time of day because later in the day I took Craig's pictures and the sun wasn't as right, so it didn't look as good. So I kind of lucked out.
You didn't know the trick of the.
I didn't know the trick either of doing the thing on here, but I was kind of like telling my sister, I'm like, get out here, the lighting's perfect, and you catch that. It's like
and it's totally okay to shoot into the sun. In fact, shooting into the sun, like where the sun's behind your subject, that's a very beautiful thing to do, especially if you're shooting raw, because you can really bring out the image a lot more. But
so that's more for editing. It works better if you're doing it because I always feel like when I do it that way, it's always so dark. Like it doesn't.
Well, that's the.
It's dark because your camera usually, if you're on auto, will expose for the sun, so you're probably getting a silhouette of the person. But if you know how to expose for the person, that could be a very beautiful shot. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to kind of talk about after we get the iPhone questions.
Yeah, because like here's one that I did with the sun behind, and it just like it's not.
It washes out. Yeah, like the.
But it's because I didn't push on him to let the phone focus on him first. That might have helped that one turn out better.
Well, and sometimes you don't have the time to do that either.
Right.
Like if you know he's going to come in, what you have to do in that instance is you have to pre-focus on that spot where he's going to be, lock in your exposure, get the exposure where you want it, and then when he enters the frame, then click it.
Okay. Right. No, that's good to know. I didn't know. I thought you had to like pick the spot, so that helps for the action ones. That would make it you'd be able to do it like in action or whatever.
Totally.
I'm trying to see. Did you have any other ones that you kind of wanted to?
That was almost a cool silhouette of him surfing.
Yeah.
It was. It needed some editing, and I don't know how to edit, but then I think it was.
His head was going into the mountain, also. So if you were to make that really dark, you would lose his head in the silhouette of the mountain. But like literally, if you raised your camera up and looked at the image as you were taking it, his head would be right where the reflection of the water is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So then when you silhouette it out, you can see his silhouette. It doesn't get mixed into the mountain or whatever.
I mean, that's a killer shot if you could pull that off. I mean, just to kind of like hold that camera up and get his head with the water behind him, like that's killer.
Yeah.
So, and then there's this one.
Oh, I love it. You captured it so good.
That was just a joke. Yeah.
Hey, I tried to do that one time, but I don't have any hair, so I didn't get that.
Didn't mean to rub that in there, but okay. No, I think I was trying to think if there were any other pictures that I really had that I wanted to kind of, but I mean, it's just what you're telling me. I think I could go through all these pictures now and kind of comprehend what I need to do differently. So
yeah, and it really is just practicing all the time so that when the moment arrives, like you just, I mean, it's nothing for me to look at a scene and boom, get my composition and take the shot. I mean, it's just, I'm always thinking about it.
Yeah. And so for composition, then again, because I like to like get to that point with it. So it's, is there like 3 points you can say for composition when you're setting up a picture, do this. I know it's not that cut and dry, but again, like just something more to like kind of say, like, do I need the whole body in? Yes, no. Do I need to tilt up or down? Like, are there certain things that as we're learning it, we kind of play around with to learn more how to do it right?
When it comes to composition, what I would say is, what is your subject? Answer that question first.
Which could be not just a person, but a mountain or the lake or the beach or whatever. Okay.
So if it's a person, move into them and, capture them, make them in the foreground. Don't let anything distract your attention from them. But if your composition is them in front of a mountain, well then show, maybe back up a little bit and show that mountain in your context of the image so that you show how magnificent it is and how little that person is, or how big the person is next to the mountain, depending on your. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. So either choose if you're going to make the background part of it or you're not.
Exactly.
Okay. As part of it or not. And then if you are not going to do it and you're going to focus on the person, make that your focus and then worry about their composition almost more than the picture. Not really. No, you have to get them in the right spot of the frame is still where you need to focus on.
Right.
Yeah. And take test shots because, if you are wanting to play around with your subject a little bit, when you take that shot and you look at it, you just have to ask yourself, are they the center of attention in this image? And if they aren't, well, how do you make them the center of attention in that image? And a lot of times it's usually like leaning down or getting up or just left. It's movement is what it takes to get that person in there. Like, for example, I was shooting baseball the other day. Okay. And I got a picture of the second baseman. He was a 6-year-old throwing the ball. Well, I wanted to show where he was throwing the ball to. So I moved myself over to the first baseman where he was throwing the ball to, and I composed him on this side, the first baseman on this side. So when he threw the ball this next time, you saw it going to a person.
Yeah.
And that would be what you would call like your subject. Like your subject of it was, part of that was that you wanted to see where he was throwing it to. So like there was a subject as figurative as like a, it's the concept or whatever you're looking to do.
So like your son was surfing the wave, but where is he surfing the wave? Is he surfing the wave in Morocco, or is he, in the Great Lakes or whatever? You kind of want to put that context into the image so people understand, especially since you travel so much, where are you surfing these lakes,
Yeah. And that background was so cool. And that background was so cool. It made sense. Like that building, just the colors and everything, like it made sense to include it versus if it was like Michigan, we might've just wanted to do him.
So him like freezing going,
in his wetsuit. So that's really helpful to just kind of, think of it that way. And then as we're putting together, I'm assuming that as we're putting together kind of our portfolio of pictures that we're using, that to do a variety, to sometimes hone in on the person, like being like the frame is like all them, or like, that's what we're in. And then other times backing it all the way away. Like it's good to do a variety like that, or is it better, you think, as what we do as influencers, to have like a signature picture or composition that we use or something like that?
That's a good question. I think you're going to find that your signature look is going to reveal itself and kind of like what you put into the image all the time, because people usually lean one direction or another. Like for me, my images have breathing room, and you can kind of feel it when you look at it. And but you can see a lot of creativity in how I think, because I'm always like putting a bottle of water up to it or something. Like I'm shooting through stuff, trying to make it look different. Whereas if you're traveling all the time, you're going to find that you're very comfortable with certain focal lengths, and you're going to see like, I'm getting all the kids in on this picture. As you're shooting, just look for the things that you like the most, because you will start to have people expect a certain thing from your images eventually. And, once you get them clean and composed right, I think you'll just find your style. Example that I like to give this example of, I was on a forum, and there were a whole bunch of professional photographers on it. This one guy was always shooting black and white square images. Okay. They were good. They weren't the best I've ever seen, but that's all he posted every single time on his website, everywhere. That's all he posted. And The truth is, like, if somebody came to me or another photographer, we might be able to do it better, but no one would ever come to us for that because this guy is always doing it. You know what you're going to get time and time again from this guy. So they'll pay him $1,000 or whatever to go shoot it, knowing I'm going to get that. So,
yeah, that's what they're looking for. No, that's a really good point, and that's something for us to think about if we go down a route where our photography becomes a source of income for us that we're doing something at some point for,
Totally.
then that makes sense.
Yeah.
And not saying it will at any point, but more that idea where now if we're doing it to show our story, then it's a little bit of a different, like how we do that. So that makes total sense. That is a perfect answer. For, again, though, when we're doing the shooting, I would love your opinion on, is it good to say, hey, you three go over there, I'm going to use this kid this time to take this picture? Or do you feel that we should be able to take these amazing pictures with all four of them in, and we just need to figure out what that composition is and the length and how we do that? Or is it not worth putting the effort in figuring that out with all four of them in the majority of our shots?
So, like, I mean, you want to get all four of them in the shot if possible, right?
I would like to, but not if it, obviously there'll be times I'll just take it just for the joy of us having the picture and like not really care about the perfectness of it or whatever. But if it's something we're looking to use for something, like I just am really more focused on what's going to make the picture the best.
Okay. Well, I mean, if this is what I would do is I would practice this particular shot is I would go find a scene and take your iPhone, have it set up and say, hey kids, come over here and sit right here real quick and let me take a picture. And then they're going to sit down, like take that picture right away. And then practice that over and over, because what you can do is you can let the kids do whatever they want. You go ahead and set up your scene, set up your rig, whatever you need to do, and then say, hey, kids, come over here, and let them get into the image and then take the shot. Okay. What a lot of people do is they do it the opposite way. They put the kids there, and they have to figure out their scene, and then they have to figure out everything else. And by the time they take the picture, they're like, come on, Mom, you're taking too long. I want to go play,
Yeah, no, totally. That's a really good way. And I think obviously as we do it, we would learn if that meant I had to stand 50 feet back or 10 feet or where I would stand for the right angle, because I kind of knew what that setup was before I did it.
Yeah.
So, okay. But and you're saying basically then there's no reason that we couldn't get all four of them in the majority of our pictures and still have good quality picture.
Oh yeah, you could easily get them in there. You just got to remember that they're kids and their attention span is like really short. That's all. Yeah.
And we want to show the rawness of it too. So like there's that reality too of just what we want, that realness in it. So it's just more of us knowing before that makes sense. I think of it that way,
it
right?
does. Yeah, like if you're all set to go, you have your scene set up and you just need them to come into it. You're good to go. And then you can even take 10 or 15 pictures, like snap, snap, snap.
Yeah.
Totally.
See what you
your
get.
chances of getting it looking and smiling is better than just trying to do one or two.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. No, that's helpful, because I've always I think the easy way is to take one kid because then you can kind of you know what I mean? It's just easier to work with. But I like the idea of doing it with, more of all of them. And I think people respond to that too. Like they see all of them and it's part of our story. So it kind of
and when you're using the iPhone, it's a little bit easier to focus and stuff like that. What I would do if you're using your Nikon is maybe I would pre-focus on the person not taking the picture. So if Bryanna's taking the picture, like say, hey, Craig, stand here. So I can get a pre-focus on you. That's just kind of what you need to do.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Or hold that button down on the iPhone too to focus in on an area. So then when they come into it, it's set for them or whatever. So, okay. Yeah. No, that's helpful. So then, and then I know I kind of jumped off this, but for the composition, then it's the person, and if they're your subject, moving into them or out of them or however you want to focus on them, and then deciding if you want to make the background part of the image or not. And then if you do, making sure that the composition is right and it fits and there's some space and stuff like that. Did we miss anything else with the composition, or do you think those are kind of the main things to start on as beginners to focus on?
Those are the main things. I think one thing that you always have to watch out for is that sometimes your subject is both the person and the mountain. And you have to be careful when you're shooting like in low light, like if you want a beautiful sunset shot or something like that, real quick tip, if you want to shoot silhouettes of your kids, get as low as you can to the ground, because the lower you are, the more sky you see.
Okay.
And you guys are going to have the ability to take some spectacular pictures with your kids, all four of them lined up against the skyline, and then like a huge mountain or a huge building off in the distance, or a bridge or something else like that. You're going to have those opportunities. And I want to see you like get amazing pictures from it. And you're going to literally have to lay down in the grass to get them, their whole entire body showing. And when it comes to silhouette, separation is everything. So if I take a picture of a hand like this and it's completely black, you don't know it's a hand. It's just like a big glob. But if I go like this, now you see 5 fingers, it's a hand. So separation is like, so spread kids out, spread people out, whatever.
Yeah, to define that more. Yeah, I think you did that for one of our pictures too, where you had us all lined up there. And like you could,
by the lake.
Like, it made the difference.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it made a difference with it. So okay. No, I think that's all. I don't think I should take more points on composition, or I might like just forget everything. So
yeah, sure.
I think that's a good starting point to kind of like start with and work with, and then kind of build from that. So okay. No, that was perfect, and that's helpful too for just the iPhone itself, how to do something
some
with
other
that.
options that you have with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. If you don't mind, at the the other part of it here, if we jump into the DSLR.
Yeah, just like typically we shoot auto mode, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll play around. Like we have M for manual, and then we have the aperture priority, shutter speed priority, and then the P. I'm not sure what that's for, but
that's program.
Yeah. Okay. So you can set it or whatever. Yeah. So I sometimes mess around with like the aperture settings and stuff like that to kind of do like the blurred background with like the the clear subject. And do
you know how to get a blurred background?
I believe I do, but it's really taking so I'll put it on that setting, and then I'll kind of roll the dial to bring down the focus, I believe it is.
The F one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what is your lowest aperture on there?
So we have
4.
We have different.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess maybe is.
Yeah.
So is it better to talk about which lenses make sense to use, or is it not matter and it's more about the M's and the F's and the P's and stuff like that?
The lenses are going to change from situation to situation. What I would do personally is make sure that you understand what each one means, because if you know what each one does, you can fix it. And that's going to be the biggest problem, is you're going to get into a situation and you freak out because the moment's so good, and if you don't know what the thing does. So aperture, the lower the number, the more out of focus everything is. That's the main.
Yeah.
Okay.
The lower the number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aperture, lower number, more out of focus. Okay.
Yeah. So if you have like a 3.5 aperture, and
this one is
how we talked about your go ahead.
I was gonna say 4.5 is on this particular lens or whatever is the lowest it goes down to.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
And how far does it zoom in to?
Well, which lens are you?
We can zoom to 55. So this is 18 to 55 millimeter lens.
So that's one of the like factory ones or whatever.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the cheaper ones, and then the ones we bought are more of like more expensive. That we have the this one, the 50 millimeter.
And this one was more of a portrait type of lens, so it's a
1.8 aperture.
1.8 G. So I don't know.
Cool. Yeah, the G would just be the kind of mechanism it has inside and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then the other one was the wide lens one, the like 10 to 24 millimeter one.
I think I had that one at one time. That's cool.
So this is our first time ever with the wide lens. So should we almost in a sense like try our hardest to always use the better lenses to get the better pictures if we're going to be pulling out this camera, or does it not really matter and we can go with the like out of the box ones and it's okay?
It honestly doesn't matter. A lot of people will tell you it does, but it all depends on the photographer who's using it.
Okay.
Every situation is going to call for something different. You know, if you want to get that big mountain scene or the huge lake, like this back here, you're going to be using that very wide lens. If you want to get a picture of Craig standing in front of it and you want him to be your subject, then you want to use that 50 and put it down to like maybe a 2.8 aperture. I usually don't go lower than that because it's really easy to get stuff out of focus. Because it's a sharp focus. Like, let me give you an example. If you're shooting at 1.8 aperture, which is low, that means your eye can be in focus and your nose may not.
Okay.
So it's that
That's
sensitive.
how shallow the depth of field is.
Okay.
And you really want to kind of play around with that.
Well,
stuff.
yeah, I like it, and I think like
sometimes
like it gives like a really cool effect. Like you have a beautiful scenery behind them, but it really brings that subject, like makes it pop when that's a little bit blurred and they're like really clear. You know, it's I like that. Really cool.
Yeah, I mean that'll make your rig stand out like crazy against a beautiful background that's kind of like blurred in the background.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what the aperture does. Is that gives the subject the clarity and the blurred kind of background.
Yeah, I say the lower the number, less stuff is in focus. The higher the number, more stuff is in focus.
Okay, and then what does shutter priority do? Is that speed?
So just to go back to aperture real quick, if you have it on F2, F is just the letter they put in front of it. If you have it on 2, that means it's always going to stay on 2 and it's going to change your shutter to make it 2 aperture. If you're on shutter priority, then remember that's shutter priority, aperture priority. So it puts the priority on the shutter. So if you're at 200th of a second, which is pretty fast, you're going to freeze everything and your aperture is going to change to fit to the shutter. So you may have a lot of stuff in focus. You may have a little in focus. It just depends on the time of day and how dark it is.
Okay.
And then is there certain reasons why you would put it to the P versus the S versus the A? That's all depending on time of day and light and subject and all of that. There's probably a lot to that, right?
No, like P is kind of like if you just don't want to worry about stuff and you want to like take it like an iPhone and let the camera do everything for you, put it in P. And a lot of times that works very well. But if you're taking pictures of kids running fast, which is an example that you guys would come across, and you don't want them to be blurred, you don't want to see like motion and stuff. You want their heads to be still. You do the shutter priority and put it on 200 or 1,000 or whatever you need to put it on to keep them still. And then your camera will make sure they're still and it'll expose it right.
Okay. And for the shutter priority, the higher the number, the faster it'll take it. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So like a good practice for you is if you can find like a water fountain or something spitting out water, play with it there. Do it on shutter priority and then put it on 2,000th of a second and that the water will be like perfectly still.
So you're actually capturing the water,
Yeah, you're stopping the water droplets. But if you want to get the motion of the water, which is what you want to do a lot, you want to put it down to 100th of a second or something like that. The main rule when it comes to shutter speed, and this can be broken, is that your shutter speed should always be higher than your focal length. So if you have a 50 millimeter lens, you should be above a 50th of a second.
Okay.
That'll get you a still image.
Okay. That's a good way. Like that's it. Like you said, they're made to be broken, but when you're first learning, like it's good to kind of know that stuff and have that what you can set it at. So that's interesting. Okay.
It's a good thing we're recording this because this is a lot of information to take in.
Yeah. It is, but it's all good. Maybe it'll give you some stuff too. You can keep making some opt-ins or some other documents out of it.
Right. You guys could even use that fan behind you to test the shutter speed and let it go really fast and then practice it and you'll see the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good
Now,
point.
what's going to happen is, let's say you're testing out that fan and you put it outside. The fan is black. So if you have a shutter priority and you have a low shutter because you want to see the fan spinning, it may not expose it right because it's confused because it's black and you're outside and it's bright. So sometimes the camera doesn't know what to do. Those are the times that you go into manual mode. And basically, and I'll try to say this as simple as possible because people are like afraid of manual mode. But what you do is, like, let's say you want to shoot it at 60th of a second, okay? And it's not exposing right. So go into manual, set your shutter to a 60th of a second where you want it, and then adjust your aperture accordingly. That all the camera is not doing is it's not picking the right aperture, so you just have to pick it for it.
Okay.
That makes it sound so easy.
You know, it's funny, like well, when it comes to photography or something like you don't know, like that's creative, like all you have to do is hear it the right way and then you'll never forget.
And it clicks. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think it is just too, it's the playing around with it, like you said, like just taking the time to just go out and just shoot 1,000 pictures just to try different things and just see what happens and, you know, kind of figure that out and stand up and stand down and, you know, play around with all those things, I think is key. I have a question a little bit off the thing, but and maybe you don't know and that's totally fine. For video shooting, because we're doing a lot more of YouTube now, is a lot of the stuff the same concept, the same composition concept, the same like whatever, or does video kind of is a whole nother ball of wax that like you can't really put the two in the same thought process?
No, they're very similar. You know, the only thing that you're gonna have to do is you'll just focus while the video is running. Like that's the kind of thing that you have to worry about. So like the composition, all that applies. The only thing you have to look out for in video is you have to leave room on where your subject is going. So if all your kids are running this way, you don't want to put them up here.
Yeah.
You don't know where they're going, but you want to put them back here, give them room to go. That's kind of the main thing.
Okay. But it will kind of potentially all click across the board for us then as we start to do it, if it's still or video or whatever, just these thought processes. So, okay. Yeah. No, that's helpful because our videos are so amateur right now. But we just keep them anyways. We're like, they're raw, they're real. Like, we don't.
That's right. Oh, no. Are you still there? Oh, no. Did I lose you? Oh, you're still there.
Okay, we're here. His, the hotspot is on his phone, so if someone calls him, it drops the hotspot. So yeah.
Travel life.
We're in Mexico. Yeah, exactly. We're in Mexico with internet and the beach. Like it's all good. Like we can handle it.
I might be going to Mexico for the dentist soon. So.
Oh, there you go. We did it. We had to bring Knox in, and he had to get his tooth pulled, and it was an amazing experience. Yeah. Like they were awesome. So don't be. Yeah, it was good though. It was definitely way cheaper, and they did a really good job. So it was. Don't be too scared.
That's cool. Okay, so we were talking about video. Yeah, it'll all click, especially with the composition. That's going to be the number one thing with video. That's going to make your video above and beyond a lot of others is just the composition.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like with that, like there's definitely room there that we need to figure it out with the video. I feel like the video, correct me if I'm wrong, is more challenging than the stills because it's moving.
Not necessarily. Actually, there's a lot of times where it's easier because, I mean, you're basically in program mode all the time, shooting the videos.
Right.
Like for some reason, video has a better understanding of how to get a proper exposure and everything else. Whereas still images, you really have to know every single component so much more in the moment.
Okay. No, that does make sense. I think it's more just our positioning with the video. We kind of do the whole like just hey versus like getting down or up or like doing different things. So that composition. Yeah,
well, and video will be a very good way for you guys to practice. So like, I mean, when you go out and do silhouettes or you want to make somebody look really big, you know, just get that low profile and shoot up at them, and that'll make them look really big. I mean, it's like the best example I can give you of that is, you know, here I am with all my junk behind me. I look kind of small, but when you get low and now you're shooting up like this, and well, now I'm huge, I'm big, you know, and those little techniques will go a long way when you're trying to show how big the ocean is or the mountain is or anything else.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. We haven't done like any of that, so we definitely definitely put it on the list, right? Well, yeah, so I guess I know we're getting close to the end here. Is there anything else that like you would just think is something important for us to kind of hearing what we're asking and where we're at with things that's important for us to know or to put some time into? Or I mean, are you good with the
I'm good with
some
that.
ideas there? So just more, I mean, just anything else that you think we should really be focusing on, or even homework that we should do to keep working on this or anything like that?
I would say just like practice all the time. Like, just get the bug for taking pictures. And literally like just have fun with it and go out there and take pictures of your kids at a 1/10 of a second or a 1/2 a second and just see what it does, because it's really cool. And what you're going to find out is, you know, if you're shooting there's so many things you could do, but like your kids are running around really fast and you're shooting at a 1/2 of a second, which is crazy. But what could happen is your kid's head could be perfectly still in one shot or close to it, and his whole body or her whole body is like moving like crazy. I mean, you can get stuff like that, but you have full control with a DSLR, and you don't have as much control with this. So I would say practice your composition in this and practice your settings and having fun in this.
Creativity or whatever more with that. Okay.
Yeah, so that when the moment comes, you guys can just like totally crush it and rock it. And then sell those images.
There you go.
Well, that's the thing with us. Like, it's one of those things, like, we have literally, like, a minute to take the picture, and then, like, we're on to something else, you know? So it's, like, having to – and we've never taken the time to stop for 10 minutes to say, let's figure this out. So then next time we do it, it can be 9 minutes, and the next time 8 minutes, and eventually get down to that, you know, shorter where, like, we just know what to do. Like you said, it's just in your head. You know what to do. And, like, And the last thing that I would tell you guys is, since you travel so much and you're always like going out and doing stuff, you want to take as little as possible, because the one thing that'll just wear you down more than anything is having 3 lenses or whatever, like having a whole bunch of options with you. It's nice to have those options if you think you're going to use them, but I would just have one camera, kind of think ahead on what you're going to do, and maybe take one lens and just get creative with that, because too many options will just like make you crazy and make you want to hate doing this. And because there's nothing worse than taking a whole backpack. Like, that's what I do all the time. I take all my gear, a tripod, and I never use a tripod. I never use certain lenses. And I just like, I'm like, why did I bring all this stuff? And it's frustrating. No, it is. And that's how back whenever we made a decision for us both to get the new iPhones, because we're like, this is what we're going to use. We're not going to use anything else. We're just going to do this. But then we needed a tax write-off, so we bought some lenses. And then, of course, we also kind of like just know the quality we can get with the DSLR and the things we can do. So like, it's always kind of there. Like, no, we should bring it. We should have. Why do we have it? Why didn't we bring it? And then it's like, so no, I think it's just more understanding how to do it though too is what holds us back. Like, we don't see the better quality. Sometimes I think my iPhone takes better pictures in the DSLR because of whatever, you know. So then it's like, well, what's the waste? But I think you'd enjoy just having more fun with it too, and like doing that. So
just messing around with it and trying to figure out how to make it all use it in the different settings and stuff. So
for sure.
My absolute favorite thing to do is like, I'll give somebody my Nikon D750 and my Pro lens. I'm like, go out there and I'll take this iPhone and, you know, compare shots and see, because it really isn't just all in your angles and composition, how you do it. No,
I like that too, because that's so much more doable than having to know every single lens or thing or whatever. So Well, yeah, no, this was great. I think it was exactly what we kind of needed, was to just get these basics that like we were just missing. And I think that's a really good starting point for us. And then, yeah, it would just be, the next thing is if you felt like it would be worth it to do another call, maybe if it's in a week or something like that on the editing piece of it, or if it's better for us even just to send you some pictures and kind of have you critique them for us and give us recommendations. Like, where would you think makes sense to go to kind of just see that now we're implementing what you talked about and we understood everything?
I would wait. If go ahead and practice for a while. What I'm going to do is, you guys inspired me to do like a small little tutorial on just the basics of Lightroom and just get it started in it. So I will do that when I get my Mac Pro back, and I'll upload it to YouTube, and then I'll let you guys know. And so you can see it. If there's any more questions that you have after that, you can let me know. But I would just practice everything that we talked about now, because those fundamentals will just take you so far. There are tons of other things that you can do if you really get into photography. But man, that'll take you really far, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with that. It's gonna be awesome.
Do you mind if we do send you maybe a handful of pictures and just kind of say, hey, what do you think about these? Okay. Yeah. And I think it'd be good to kind of see, like, if we did it, like, maybe like he thinks it's good or I do and he does it, whatever, just to get like your take on like, oh, this was why that didn't quite look right, or this is what you should have done differently, or email
them to me at jojohendricks.com, because that way I can just email back and write you. Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. No, perfect.
I can't wait to see what you guys do.
Don't put too much on it. Oh, geez, now I'm nervous. We got to really show that we could do
the
this.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, totally. But no, it's awesome. And also, too, like, I hope you know how appreciative we are for all the pictures you did take with us in Nashville. If you've checked out our new website that we did however many months ago, like, it's your pictures on there. Yeah. It's what we, because they were so amazing. And, like, we just really, and we try to take you. We credited you at the bottom of it. And we try to, like, always, like, do what we can. But if there's anything else we can do too to help even with this endeavor for you, like, by all means, let us know, because we're all about sharing the love and spreading the word and all that. So definitely.
I mean, if it helped you out, just like, say it. I would appreciate that so much, because I really love doing this, and I've done about 5 now. So and I have one with Dan McKenzie in about a week. So I'll tell him you guys said hi.
Yeah, for sure. Lindsay was actually helping me in our business for a while, so I've been in touch with Lindsay like quite a bit. So yeah, they're awesome. Cool. But yeah, and the other thing too is I'm part of a blogger mastermind group that I put together. Cool. So I thought about even putting it out to them and saying, hey, would you guys be interested? Like, would you do like a group call like that? Like, if there were like 10 of us on and you came on and did something, like,
I would love something like that. Okay. I'm in a little one-on-one with David Blackman right now. And I think it's been the most motivating, supportive thing I've ever been a part of, and I love it. And I would love to like help out other people. I mean, I love being in those group settings. So yeah, I mean that means a lot to me. Things that you would think of me for that, but yeah, I would love to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, because definitely I figured you'd put it out to the group and kind of see like if they'd be interested in it, and having someone come on and kind of do like a lesson like that for us, and like, because everyone's travel bloggers, so everyone wants to know, like how to do that and everything. So the whole picture thing. Some of them are way beyond, whatever, but everyone can always learn something. So they're selling their images.
Cool. So, well, guys, it's so good to see y'all. And once this gets downloaded and everything on my computer, I'll make it available for you guys so that you can download it. Okay? Cool.
Awesome. Great. We'll tell Rhonda we said hi too, and hopefully we'll see you guys like on the road too at some point, be able to hang out some more and get the kids together. Yeah.
We're still on our Airstream, but I am going to be getting back out on the road.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. No, that's exciting. I know you guys will in whatever form you can, and when you can, I know you guys will make it happen. So that's exciting. So awesome. Well, keep doing what you're doing. You're good at it.
Thanks. Appreciate it. All right, guys.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.